Hello, 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 hello. I'm so glad to see you. My name is Suzanne Castle, and this is Training Tuesday. Holy cow. So, here inside the Sparkle Factor headquarters, every Tuesday, we spend a few minutes together working on alignment because where you are inside affects everything you do outside, from your brain to your action. So, that affects your life, it affects your work, it affects those that you love, those that you lead. And I'm glad that you're here with me today. Hey, give me some love. Let me know if you're catching this live. Hi, I want to shout you out and say hola. If you're catching it on hashtag replay, great. I'm just glad that you're spending a few minutes all month long in March. We're going to be talking about happiness. And, I fielded an interesting question with someone in my network that's like, happiness is kind of saccharine. Life is hard. It doesn't do anybody any good to just be happy all the time. And that's a lot of what you teach. And you know what? You're right. It is a lot of what I teach. But there's a difference between choosing to look and live into a way of happiness and just like being happy just for happiness sake. Bad things happen. I know that recession woes, there's a lot of financial pressures on businesses right now, but there's no reason that dire needs to be your atmosphere, right? It is a happening, it's a thing, we have to address it, but how we're choosing to show up in that means everything. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about spreading happiness at work. I really feel like when you are embodying a culture to where you want people to be better, do better, no matter what weather the company is finding themselves in, no matter what weirdness of the economy, no matter even your own personal mess, when you're saying, all right, we're about a culture of joy, even in the midst of the mania. That's a difference, because no matter what position you hold, you can take charge of the way that you think. And when you're taking charge, when you choose to be an active participant here, that can increase so many levels of your life and have positive influences. It doesn't mean that you're saying, oh, life doesn't happen and everything is roses. That's not what you're saying. I mean, many of you know that last week, on Thursday, in fact, we had a tornado right here. I am very lucky. My house is very lucky. Our damage is this much compared to everybody else's. But that could have just, I didn't have power for 2 days, that could have just wrecked, and it did. It wrecked my calendar. But at the end of the day, I go, okay, what can I effectively do about this? It starts here. What I can effectively do is, okay, so I got some unanticipated time with the pups, with Brian. We got to like picnic by candlelight. I had to cook everything on the stove. I had to like do all my creative things there. There was an intentional shift. It doesn't mean that the yuckiness didn't happen, but the shift that I made in the way that I wanted to approach it means everything. So let's talk about happiness at work. And we're going to continue this next week. So I'm going to give you a couple of tips today, a couple of tips tomorrow. Next Tuesday, and I want you to be practicing them and see what shows up for you. What works? What doesn't work? How does this stuff land with you? That's what Training Tuesday is all about. So today, let's talk about a little bit about your own happiness in the way that you're approaching your work. Now, your work could be retirement and giving back time. Your work could be on building a business. Your work could be, I work at a corporation. I manage a bunch of people. I'm doing a thing. Your work could be, I'm a teacher. You're catching this on replay. Awesome. There are some things that you can do to start here and here so that you can be in the moment in a present, positive way and not a reactive way. That's what I mean by happiness. You are choosing in a proactive manner how you are approaching different situations. So the first thing I would say is we definitely want to accept the situation. Like I said earlier, we don't want to be about just brushing it under the rug, being saccharine, being fake. Every single job, every single part of life at some point will have an unpleasant duty about it, right? And if your position, let's say you're in a company, it's preventing you from being able to change the situation, shift to accepting the situation. So what we want to do is say, okay, this is what is. Now, how much negativity do I want to put around the isness of the situation? Or can I look for some humor here? Can I look for a life lesson here? Can I look for, I am learning how I don't want to lead people. I am learning how I don't want to build a thing. When you look, you are intentionally telling your brain to focus differently. Okay. And when you're doing that, you're devoting your energy to thinking energy. And that thinking energy presents possibilities. It creates neurons. It's constructive energy rather than reactive emotional energy. So again, if you want to make yourself happier, life, work, whatever, start with acceptance. Secondly, take breaks. You're not getting out of here alive. So quit pushing so hard. Giving yourself rest, it's really good for your emotional health and it's fabulous for your productivity. And I was reminded of this yesterday by my own coach, right? So stand up, step away from the computer for a few minutes every hour. My watch tells me to do that. I've set the parameters there. But you could also just set alarms, and maybe you can't just like go take a 10-minute walk around the neighborhood. Okay, but you can get up and stretch. You can do that. That is a choice that you're making. Maybe take time to chat with your coworkers, not about business. Just, hey, I'm just checking in. How are things going with your kids? Right? You don't want to be distracting, but it is okay to just give all of the energy a break. Number 3, you want to take control. So what do I mean by taking control? This is different than acceptance. Taking control means when you're feeling in control, it's really an important factor that over and over studies will say in job satisfaction. Things are out of control all the time. You're not just putting out fires all the time. That's a very chaotic place to be. You can take control by planning ahead, not always leaving everything at the house that you have to go back and then it breeds chaos. Making a checklist for yourself every single day of what needs to happen that day, planning intentionally, reviewing your day ahead of time so that you know what you need to do and when. That will make all of your work, honestly, it'll make your life more pleasant. You want to keep your to-do list up to date, whether it's electronic or paper. You want to have a timeline for major projects that you break down into small chunks. And I really think this will help you avoid stressors that are unneeded. We all have stress, but we also are the product of a lot of unneeded stress due to the lack of planning and intentionality and just taking a moment to make sure we have what we need. So that's what I mean by taking control. Number 4, you definitely want to be organized. That kind of goes in the control factor, right? When your things are in order, it's easier to relax and be in the moment. Now that could be clutter. It could be supplies and files that you use frequently, where you can touch them and access them easily. It might be when you do have things that seem chaotic, and that's different for everybody, but that plays on your brain in unusual ways. I teach a whole course about decluttering, and it's not just about organizing so it's pretty like an HGTV magazine, but organizing so that your brain has clarity. Okay, so think of that as when you're organized, whatever that means for you, your brain has more clarity and therefore more creative energy, right? Also, I think we should be engaging more fully. That's another tip I have for you. You may find that your work is more interesting when you can devote your full attention to it. What do I mean by that? Interruptions happen, but they just take away and they just eat at you like fire ants, right? It's just like, meh, meh, meh. So what we want to do is we want to look for ways to streamline routine tasks, right? So find the most efficient way, make it easy. We make things way too complicated. So I would invite you to put this away when you can, listen actively in a meeting, in a presentation, take notes the old-fashioned way because you're imprinting it differently, ask follow-up questions, put them off to the side, make sure that you are actively engaged in the work, okay? And then I want you to use your strengths. Use your strengths. Identify your strong points and put them to work for you, not against you. So you could be a good writer. You could be an effective salesperson. You might be a fabulous people connector, right? I would encourage you to volunteer for assignments, for projects that will make the most of your talents, because that will equal more happiness, the positive, the uplifting environment, the joyful culture that we're trying to create for ourselves and for others. Okay. And when you do that, you want to be sure that you're connecting with your motivation. So keep in mind the purpose, why you're there. Are you there to learn? Are you there for a next step? Are you there because it's an easy paycheck and you can check out at the end of the day? All of those are okay. Right? But make sure that you're checking in and you understand your motivation. All right. That's my keys for this week on making yourself happier at work. Next week in Training Tuesday, we're going to stay on this theme and we're going to talk about helping your colleagues in a joyful way, not from a, oh, I have to way. So I hope that you'll be here next Tuesday, 9:30 Central, same time, same bat channel. Some of us will be in daylight savings. So just keep that in mind. That's coming up this week. I'm Suzanne Castle, creator and founder of The Sparkle Factor. I'm glad you spent a few minutes with me. Have a great day.